So, welcome back, everybody. This is Night Flight, and today, as you can see, Tony Sayers is back, and we are going to talk a little bit how we can avoid falling for a cult. And if you're really in it, then it's time to pack your bag and go. So, Tony, welcome, welcome back. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, Judith. Thanks for having me back on the channel. And yeah, as you were speaking of, just navigating the crazy clown world, and I think we were just talking about how it's important to poke fun at the system and laugh at it, and that's certainly what I encourage people to do. It's just so some of it's so batshit crazy. And like you say, they're not getting everything their way, are they? We were talking about electric cars blowing up, and all this stuff that they want. I think they've been pushing things a little bit too hard and a little bit too fast. And of course, people are a lot more people are questioning things now. When you consider when we first started doing podcasts, there's a massive general distrust of governments and media nowadays. I mean, not everyone. You're still going to get the complete sleepers or NPCs or whatever you want to call them, but they're like the glue that hold everything together, aren't they? And I guess if we're going to talk about cults, they're like the most strongest cult members because society in and of itself is a cult. That's why they call it culture. So we talk about individual cults, but actually we're all part of one big massive cult. And I guess that just stems from, people wanting to be led and looking for leaders and not trusting in themselves and, going with what feels good. That's always what seems to hook people in. Obviously, I talk a lot about the New Age movement, which is another cult, and there's cults within cults. So you've got the New Age movement, then you've got the Twin Flame movement, and then you've got all these other, offshoot cults, and I find them fascinating. I really do. I just find them so interesting, but it all boils down to a kind of desperation, I believe, and people, I think, wanting to be like part of a group, um, to, I don't know, make themselves feel special in some way, because a lot of people have been abandoned as children or suffered trauma as children. And so they're looking for something. They're looking for something that they can be part of and feel special in. And this is what these cults do with open arms. People join up, and there's other brainwashed members, and they're all patting each other on the back, and so it goes on. So um, I think it really stems down into the deep psychology of the person and how much they have spent time evolving their own consciousness and reaching certain conclusions. And a lot of people just don't do that. So they just want to be led and be told what to do because yeah, they're still, I guess, infantile in their. There's your cat, right on cue. They're still infantile. They've not done the work on themselves, and they're still, a lot of people, like I say, they're still traumatized from when mummy and daddy abandoned them, and they're looking for a new family. So I think it goes deep within the psyche of the individual. I don't think it's as cut and dry as sometimes we see on the surface. But I definitely think, well, not think, I definitely know that a lot of it just comes from people's absolute desperation, of wanting to be part of something. You look at all these. I mean, you look at the military. A lot of soldiers, soul dyers, um, they they come from abandoned backgrounds where they weren't wanted, and they gravitate towards those institutions because it's like a family for them, and that's another cult within the wider cult. So yeah, I think, like I say, I think it boils down to, it's not a cut and dry uh, question of what can we do to avoid a cult. I think it's a very deep processing and introspection of the individual person that feels that they might be getting influenced into these things quite easily. Um, and just double checking and looking again, hang on, why do I feel the need that I need to gravitate towards these groups? I mean, don't get me wrong, there's not all groups are cults, but it's when you become just completely reliant, so heavily invested. You live and die by what the cult leader tells you. You don't question what they say. Um, and again, we see this with the wider culture where people don't question the leaders; they just go with the leaders, the presidents, the prime ministers, and there's that ring fenced area of debate that you're allowed to have, but you can't really go past that. And it's the same in the microcosms in the other cults, whereby I've done several videos on people like Muji and some of these people where if you question what they say or dispute what they say, they'll tell you that you're in your mind or you're in your ego, right? So they always want to shut you down. So if ever you're part of a group and you feel like you're being shut down by the quote unquote leader, chances are you might be in a cult. So yeah, it's a very deep introspection that I think every individual needs to go through in order to avoid those trappings. And having worked on themselves and maybe worked on any abandonment issues that they have, or anything that might encourage them to gravitate towards these cults.
Mhm. One popular misconception is that only stupid people fall for cults. But that is absolutely not true. And that is not what cults are targeting.
No.
And it's also not, 100% the loner. Yeah. Cults, um, actually, they like to have somewhat, some of them are highly educated. Yeah. And so it doesn't mean that an individual who went through that experience um, should put him or herself down and tell yourself the story. Oh, I was so yeah, maybe, okay, maybe there were red flags on the
Mm.
way. Yeah, there usually are. But I would caution against the attitude, oh, that could never happen to me,
Hmm.
because the moment you think that, that is when you are most vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah, and you raise a good point there, because I have many people come to me from like the new age arena. Excuse me. And when I first speak to them, quite often they feel embarrassed about the stuff that they've been involved in, the likes of angels and friendly aliens and all this stuff. And sometimes you can tell by talking to them that they feel quite shameful for it, and they feel stupid. So I always say to them, look, hey, there's no, there's no judgment. We all got caught up in it to some degree or another. It's very well packaged. A lot of these cults are very well packaged. You kind of blink and you miss it, and particularly with the new age, it just the deceptions are so subtle within the new age that unless they're pointed out, sometimes it's difficult to see through them, because again, they all feel so good. That's the other thing. So for sure, if someone's been involved with a cult, then it's a case of learning those lessons and you're not doing it again, I guess. But yeah, it's there's no shame in it, and like you say, not everyone is who has been in a cult is stupid. And I go back to, I guess, before I hate the term woke up, but I hate that term. I don't know why. Um, Started to question things. I look at how I was 12 years ago when I was very much I don't know, stuck in the matrix. Like it was all about watching football at the weekends and working my corporate job and all that kind of stuff. And didn't ever question anything. Did question why there was all wars and everything. I was very much in the cult of mainstream culture. So, and I often look back at myself then. I'm like, God damn, Tony, you were a complete sheep. You were completely, uh, yeah, just I don't know. It's like you're a different person when you look back. Um, but the other thing to point out as well is that when a person is coming out of these cults, and again, I speak from the experience of the people coming out of the New Age, they go through a very difficult grieving process.
Yeah.
Um, and that can be very painful. And a lot of people say to me, when I come across your work, I'll be honest with you, I hated you for a while. Like and it took me a few months. I was feeling down. I was feeling depressed, and I get it. It's like you come along and you say, hey, all that stuff BS, all those pillars you were leaning into to make yourself feel better and safe, and your guides and all that, all these your spirit animals and everything like that. Someone comes along and say, hey, this is just bullshit. Of course, you're going to feel resentful. You're going to feel sad because I think we all feel like we want something or someone else to have our back, and look out for us. And really, I guess what I teach and what you teach as well is we have to be that person ourselves. First and foremost, we have to be that rock for ourselves. Um, and then we can have other people around us, but we need to make sure using our discernment process that these people are stable, they're not trying to mislead us, they're not trying to recruit us or or anything like that. So but there's so many of them out there now. I mean, it's incredible. And it's almost like and I keep referring back to the New Age because it's the one that I know best of all, but it's almost like people fall into like this haze, this energetic haze. They kind of they fall under hypnosis almost, and you see it very much in these. If you ever watch videos of like Muji or what's his name, Sag Guru, the World Economic Forum, spiritual guy, right? And you watch the followers, right? And they're all sitting there on the floor, like with their legs crossed, and they all look like they're hypnotized. And then they start kissing the feet of the guru, which is gross anyway. I mean, God, it's like it's almost like some of these cults energetically put people under a spell, particularly within the new age. I feel like they're utilizing like this false white light frequency. Um, and yeah, so it can often be like the person will be like, I just don't know who I was then. It was like I was a different person. I was just yeah in a daze. So we have to be very careful because there's a lot of stuff out there now.
Yeah. And apart from this is the truth and the only truth, and don't go over there. These guys don't get it. I mean, to a certain degree, every religion does that. Yeah.
Yeah,
But with cults, what usually happens is at a certain point, they try to separate you from the rest of the world.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, Meaning it's not advised to have too many contacts, too many friends, hanging out with people who do not have the same belief system as you have. In very um, extreme cases, they tell you, yeah, um, all these people, they are sent by Satan, and they are only there to diminish your belief and make you feel insecure. So that is a red flag. Um, Somebody that is telling you you have to be suspicious of anyone who does not share your belief system, that's troubling.
Yeah, absolutely right. And they don't just physically try to isolate people. You'll often, when you research these cults, they'll often move out to an obscure location in the middle of nowhere. I think was it Osho? He literally started this camp like in these mountains in North America, like just in the
Oh my
middle of
God.
nowhere. Um, but there was oftentimes, like you say, they will try and separate you from loved ones, family members. I mean, I've heard it all down the years. There was what's the one, Eldora and Simon, who are really bad cult leaders, and I had a client say that one of her friends had moved her or separated from her husband or something and moved all the way down to be with those guys, right? And she said she's just lost the plot, and that apparently they were saying to her, that your family are not on the same frequency as you, right? They're not on the same vibration as you. They're vibrationally not gonna be able to get this information, and using all these new age buzzwords to to try and manipulate the woman into separating herself. There's another one, the twin flame documentary that was popular. I don't know if you've seen it, but they did the same. There was a woman there where the sister and the mum were just so devastated because the this woman had just, I think one day she just wrote them an email saying, thanks for being my family, thanks for bringing me up, but I'm going my separate way now and it's not going to involve you guys anymore. And that was it. And they never heard from her for like 3 years, and they're still trying to make contact with her. I mean, it's absolutely incredible how much the mind can be manipulated to get someone to actually do something like that. So these things are no joke, and oftentimes, the very worst end of the scale is people, they can never get over it if they do make their way out of it. Uh, so yeah, it's just this whole matrix is literally cults within cults within cults. And this is why I'm so keen to get people into thinking about being in a sovereign mindset and being your own leader. And of course, there's people out there that can be trailblazers or what have you, and that kind of thing. There always has been all throughout history, but the moment you start putting that person on a pedestal and hang off every word they say, that's when you're asking for trouble. And I've even thought it myself. Sometimes I felt like, wow, I could sometimes say anything, and people would just go with it, right? I mean, obviously I wouldn't, but I just observe. Occasionally, I'll get um, because I take criticism and compliments on a balance. I don't get offended, and I don't get my head pumped up if people give me compliments. Sometimes I can feel that some people are literally, yeah, literally. If I said jump, they'd say how high, and that's not what I teach. I don't want people to think like that. I want them to think independently. I want them to be their own leaders. Yes, take in information and discern that information, but it's very dangerous when you start putting things ahead of your own sovereignty. And we see this going on into the afterlife and all that, where when the person passes away, they have these entities and they pedestalize these entities, and these entities will turn up in cloaks, right? Because there's something about cloaks to our subconscious that makes us think of wisdom, and often when you study these NDEs, it's like these people are like blown away by these entities, and they're like, what do I do next? Like, guide me, where shall I go? What to and that's because they're pedestalizing these entities and putting them above themselves. Um, so I think the world will change dramatically when we all become our own leaders, and um, yeah, like I say, nothing wrong with groups per se, but just be careful. Groups can be very beneficial as well, but if they start getting out of control and you can't question anything or anything like that, then that's when it's red flags, as you say. So you've got to look out for the red flags. I don't want to put people off community, because let's face it, most of us feel as lonely as hell anyway. We're all segregated, and I think it's important to have a community, people you can speak to. But when someone's barking orders and it's my way or the highway, or I think you should stop speaking to your brother because he's not going to get it, or maybe you should think again about the partner you're with, because she's not getting what this information is, or maybe you should move out here to this mountain range where it's like 5 hours from the nearest town or city. That's when you got to start being careful. And but I think the Matrix knows that we want to gravitate to those things. That's why they set up all these cults. Another big one, another obvious one would be the cult of patriotism. I mean, what's that done down the years? People have gone to foreign countries and blown other people up just on the basis of waving a flag and saying, "Hey, we're Britain," and or we're the States or whatever, and hey, no one fucks with us, or excuse my French, and some politician has told them, look, we've got to defend the country and our history and all this stuff. And I mean, I go back to the UK, and I have no, I'm like the least patriotic person. Like, if people actually looked into the history of the UK and gone like looked into all the countries that we've raped and pillaged, you go to the British Museum, it's full of stuff that we've stolen from other countries. You've got stuff there from Egypt, from Central America, Asia, all these artifacts and ornaments and stuff, and we've been in all these countries and killed all these people and stolen things, and like people are like, yeah, UK, and I'm like, do you actually know your history? Even when you really look at what happened in World War II, what the Allies we're taught at school were the heroes. You read a book like Hellstorm. I don't know if you've seen that or read it. It's absolutely incredible, the lies that we're told, what the Allies did to the German people, the German women. And you're German yourself, so it's probably a sensitive topic, but the truth needs to be told. We're not being told about what really happened there. And yeah, they get away with so much on the cult of patriotism, getting people to buy into this flag and things like this. So yeah, there's everything's kind of a cult.
Do you think there can be a healthy type of patriotism that does not go into extremes and pillaging other countries?
Yeah, I think humans. I think when you look at nature, a lot of animals are territorial by nature, and I think that within our imaginary borders that they just made up, we do have our own culture. And I think in an ideal kind of utopian way, everyone would mix together and everyone would get on, and but I don't know if we're ready for that yet. Um, and in a way, it's nice to retain your culture. This is why I like being in Mexico and Central America. When I go back to the UK, I don't feel my culture there. I don't know what it is. It's just Western. There's McDonald's like McDonald's is like, what is the culture of the UK these days? It's changed so much from when I was a child. The people have changed so much. But you come here and, for example, I was in a place called Oaxaca in Mexico. I don't know if you know it. And it was like going back in time. All the women were wearing traditional clothes, and the food there is there's not a McDonald's in sight. And I'm like, wow, this is incredible. And Mexicans, they're very proud of their culture. Don't get me wrong, they're not completely um, separate from Western because we have the states close by and everything like that. But they still value their culture here and celebrate it. And I think that's nice that we can celebrate our cultures and our differences. And I think when you purposely inject other cultures into other cultures, it's going to cause some kind of turmoil and yeah, it can work in a more derogatory way. So I think there is a happy medium to be found with it. I think we do have our own stuff going on in different countries, and of course, they want to create they want to create more divide and rule and get us hating on each other. And I know some cultures are, every culture has their issues. There's violence and murder and all that stuff in all cultures. And I know, some cultures maybe where things are a little bit less developed, maybe there's more of those problems. So, when you mix that together, you're probably kind of asking for trouble. But I think also that can get taken too far as well. We had it in the UK a while back, and it seems to have died down now. But there was a lot of hating on certain factors of society, and that's the kind of thing that they want. Because while we're hating on each other, and we're not really looking at who's orchestrating all of this. So I feel like I say, I feel like there's a happy medium with it.
Yeah. Another thing that usually happens, as you said, do not question. And especially when you start questioning any type of cult leader. And funny enough, usually what happens, it is not exactly the cult leader that will put you down, it's the other member.
Oh yes,
They
great
they
point.
will they will tell you, yeah, well, you're very new here. You should know your place, and you are not at that point where you can grasp the
Yeah, right.
magnificence of all of this.
Yeah.
So,
Your vibration's too low.
yeah. So that is also something, I'm not saying if somebody gets attacked for no good reason that you cannot say something and defend anybody. That is not what I mean. But this group thing. This is the only place where you get the full truth, and don't you dare to say anything negative about our beloved leader, because that shows that you are a heretic, and yeah, you probably haven't studied enough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my God. My one of my favorite cults is the guy that he's in Australia, and he's convinced everyone that he is Jesus incarnate. Have you seen this guy? he was around a few years ago. I don't know whether he's still grifting that one, but but he had all these people, literally hanging off every word that he said. He had the whole like long hair and like he had the Jesus look, right? Which is what they do with Russell Brand, by the way. They make him look. There's something about that archetype, that kind of lures people in, and this guy was. And he was so sure of himself. He's like, "Yeah, I'm Jesus." Like there was no like, I believe that I might be the incarnation of Jesus. He's like, "No, I'm Jesus." Yeah, and yeah, what happened back then? Yeah, I did that for you. I sacrificed myself. It's just like, and then you got all these people like, wow, like I just find them so I could watch stuff about cults all day, like I really could, but the bottom line is it's quite sad because as I started out, the reason that someone would gravitate to a cult is probably because they had no family there for them, abandonment issues, all that kind of stuff, and they're looking for something. They're looking for their new family, and these cults do a very good job of making them feel special until, of course, like you say, they question things where the whole all the cult members turn on the person, segregate them. So you're all right as long as you go along with everything. And we saw that the last few years, 2020, when we were trying to warn people about the poke in the arm. And what happened? People just turn on you and oh, you're crazy, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're this, you're that, you're one of those. And it's like they're like the glue that hold it all together.
Yeah, I was actually flagged by somebody.
Flagged? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, you can flag a video.
Oh, you were flagged. Okay.
Yeah, but water under the bridge. But that is part of the reason why I have a lot of problems. So thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah, and
And
that's one of the reasons I keep getting my strikes because of our videos. They,
yeah,
they must, when I put your name in the title, they must go, oh, hang on a minute, strike.
so another thing that you can bet your head on in general is one way or another, they will mess with your sexuality.
Yes.
Be it that, as David Koresh did, he dissolved all the marriages in his cult, and no husband was allowed to have sex with his wife. He was the only one
How
uh, who
convenient.
he was the only one who was allowed to have sex with the women that lived there. And he was of the opinion that the descendants of those sexual encounters would be the new rulers, the special 24 children. Yeah, okay. So it can go like that, or it can go just the other way around, that you are hypersexualized. Yeah. Um, or as in, have you ever heard of that cult, the Nixium cult?
Uh, Remind me, what are they doing?
Um, it started out, yeah, I would say if you only visited um, the first introduction, and then you would probably not have noticed that there is something wrong. They were basically how you can run your business better, how can you communicate better, things like that. But those people who uh, delved in deeper into this organization, then later it turned out there were groups within groups, and, this Keith Raniere was his name, the cult leader, and he had women that were recruited by another cult member. She was an actress, Alison Mack, and she recruited women for him, and these women were literally branded, you know, very close to their genitalia.
Really?
Yeah, and
Say
then,
branded, you mean like a tattoo or something?
oh, no, not a tattoo. They were really like cattle.
Oh, right, okay. I think I
Yeah,
do remember that vaguely, but carry on.
yeah. So, and because within the cult, the narrative was Keith Raniere has no sex. He he lives like a monk, but none of that was true. And then Alison Mack, she took a picture of, and all these women were naked, and she called them slaves. You are my slaves. And they were all very proud of being in that very secretive and inner circle. And she took the picture of these women naked to Keith Raniere, and he texted back, "All mine?" question mark, and then a little devil emoji.
Oh my God. Oh,
Yeah,
dear.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
So
well,
yeah, yeah. You know, I'm just saying, just watch out. Either they forbid you to have sex, or they tell you to go completely overboard with it, or only the cult leader is allowed to have sex with the women in the group. Something will always pop up that messes with your natural sexuality.
yeah, yeah. Um, and yeah, what was the point? I was good. Yeah, quite often within these cults, particularly, well, not even the New Age ones, um, you know, like people like Muji, and I think the guy that started the Bikram yoga in the States, they use their positions of power to harness, sex and there's a lot of control over the women there, and Muji was apparently abusing women and stuff. I mean, you don't know how much of it's true, but there's always a fire with enough smoke, right? So yeah, it seems to be a general theme of a lot of these cults of yeah, and you hear a lot of these cults. There's often like orgies. They get people involved with orgies and stuff. It's all it's all kind of creepy. Um, yeah, it's really something that people need to be careful with.
Yeah. And of course, what goes hand in hand with all of these things is financial disaster.
Mhm.
Uh, Keith Raniere, for instance, he had some special courses, but they were $20,000.
Okay.
Yeah. So many people couldn't afford that, but they took courses for $5,000, and a couple of them. And same with Scientology. People run into debt up to their eyeballs, and to get to the next level and what have you. And the only thing that you are actually doing is making the cult rich.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a good a good way of making money, and yeah, a lot of these people they're cash cows for these cult leaders and the people that start them. So yeah, it's all about discernment, It's really just and looking out for the red flags. How can you avoid cults? It's that really, looking out for those things that we've spoken about, and discerning the person. How does their energy feel? When they're talking, how does it feel? Not does it feel good, but does it feel true? Is there authenticity there? And obviously, yeah, just making sure that you're not gravitating to things through your trauma that you've had, and the need for the desperation. I think that's why a lot of people get involved. They're desperate. They want to feel loved. They want to feel, and this is why it's sad. They want to feel loved. They want to feel protected. They want to feel something that they never had probably before. And so I think this is why they're all so popular, because on the surface it does appear to provide that safe space for people, and that kind of pillar that they can lean into and think, oh, I'm not on my own. I've got these people, or I've got these guides, or these angels here, or whatever flavor of cult it is. I've got these politicians that are going to look after me, or I've got my military family that are going to look after me. It's all about, yeah, wanting to be part of something. Which so I think it's very important to do that deep introspection and be honest with yourself. I've had a few people recently that have said to me, I seem to, I got out of the new age, but then I started gravitating towards religion, and it seems to me that I feel like I need something like that, and then when you look behind the curtain, there's often something there in the childhood abandonment or what have you. So it's really important that out of our desperation, we don't get hooked into these things, because they play on people's desperations. I think a lot of these cults are created, and the cult leaders, they know that people are in a desperate place. A lot of people do want to escape themselves, and live in like a fantasy world, because let's face it, this realm is not the easiest. I call it gangster planet. Um, so that they know that people are looking for something, and they're quite happy to provide it, and then manipulate for the things that they want, whether it be money or sex or what have you.
Yeah. And what you just said, my military family will look after me. I mean, look at all the veterans that are homeless in the US.
And
And,
the,
yeah, no, they do not look after you
mm,
because otherwise that wouldn't happen.
yeah, yeah, they abandon them. They get abandoned just like they were abandoned as a kid, probably.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think in the moment when they're
PTSD,
around, hmm, sorry,
PTSD up to here,
yeah, yeah,
family falls apart. Mhm.
yeah, yeah. They hardly get any money as well when they leave. I mean, we know from, I'm sure you've researched this yourself, that the cult leaders of this matrix, they have the, the utmost disrespect for military, because from their point of view, they believe that if you can just kill your fellow human beings, then you deserve to be treated like a pig. And that's essentially what they do. They decorate them with all these dog tags and medals and stuff, and make them feel like heroes. That's the other thing, that the whole kind of hero dynamic. I mean, I've had death threats before because I said, well, they're not heroes. I got like 25 death threats when I woke up one morning after I put a video out saying that the soldiers are not heroes. um, so, that they need to protect what the perception is, but they know deep down that what they're doing is wrong. I'm sure, so yeah, they absolutely they just think that the military, they call them their dogs, don't they? They're lap dogs. So
Mm.
the military think that the government care about them and stuff, when they couldn't have any any respect for them at all, really.
Yeah. Plus, they also like to meddle in the way you dress. Sometimes you really get a uniform, that separates you from the rest of society. Yeah,
Makes them
in
feel special.
yeah, and in other cults, they are very, very strict what you can wear and don't you dare as a woman to wear pants and things like that. So whenever that strikes, it's pretty obvious what
Yeah.
you're doing.
The new age ones, you've got to wear white a lot. That seems to be the theme. But uniforms are funny. They're a funny thing because, first of all, like when a policeman or a military guy puts on this clown outfit that they call uniform, they automatically have an elevated perception of who they are in relation to the rest of the cult. So they could just be mingling normally every day, but one morning they'll put on their clown outfit, they'll go outside to the world, and they that by wearing that clown outfit, they think that they then have more authority over the other people. I mean, it's crazy what how they've managed. People have bought into this. And I always tell the story of it still makes me laugh today. I was when I lived in London, I was helping to organise a march against Monsanto, and they gave me one of these fluorescent bibs, right, the bright orange ones. I was stopping traffic. I was stopping people. I could have done anything with just with this orange bib. People were like, "Where should I go?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I've got so much power here!" Like this is, and I've just got like an orange bib on, and it's amazing to me, like within the cult, how the people that wear the clown outfits, they think that there's something special, and then the cult members, as soon as they see someone with a clown outfit on, they think, oh, he or she has got authority to tell me what to do. I mean, I was having fun with it. I was like, this is a really busy road. Let me see if I can just stop it. And I was like, people were like giving me thumbs up. Yep, yep, go. It's like, oh my God. And like, it was just crazy. I was like, now I know why these people get inflated egos and inflated heads, and their heads are all gassed up because people just like bow like a dog as soon as they see someone in a clown outfit, or as you call it, a uniform. Um,
Mm,
but it's clown world, isn't it? And nothing should surprise us.
yeah. And I would also like to point out that, yes, if the penny dropped and you are in a very, very dire situation, meaning maybe you live with these people, you have no longer any contact with family, or maybe there is no family left. That can happen as well. You have broken up with your friends, you have no money, you have no real job because you worked for the cult. Of course, that is a terrible situation. And a couple of years ago, I had a lovely lady on who shared her experience, how she got out of a cult, and she was in that position. And she said, honestly, I just left with the clothes on my back.
Mm,
And she said, for a while, I slept I slept at the house of an acquaintance, a lady that I still knew. And she said that was the hardest decision that I ever had to make because you have to take this leap of faith that although your situation is dire,
mm,
that, and I don't care how you call it, that you give it over to a higher power and say, okay, this is the situation. I have to go out because of XYZ.
mm,
And I'm fully convinced I'm doing the right thing. So somebody else has to take the wheel. And I fully believe that I will be fine if I do the right thing now for
mm.
me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. You know, if you're in that dire situation, it's not going to get better staying in it, and and yeah, it's best just to yeah take that leap of faith and get yourself out of it as soon as you can. Hopefully, it doesn't get that far, but yeah, I would definitely go along with that.
Yeah. And I think that is something where people have the biggest problem because that is frightening. You know, stepping out of something, not knowing where will your next meal come from. You have the clothes on your back, you have nothing else, and then start over.
Yeah,
But in any case that I have personally witnessed, all of them came out fine.
yeah,
But that moment, that is scary. And
yeah.
there is no shame of saying that I'm scared. I'm scared of what will happen to me.
Yeah, especially if you joined the cult through an abandonment wound, because you're kind of reopening that again, because you kind of,
Oh yeah.
although you're choosing the decision, you're still gonna, that abandonment wound is still gonna feel strong in you. So you have to be prepared for that as well. But yeah, it's always best to just once you realize it's a cult, get the hell out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, that is what I would recommend as well. And especially, let's say, as we said, usually on the way there are red flags. If you notice these red flags, but you want to go ahead anyway,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, maybe it's a good idea not to cut every tie.
Mm.
Maybe it's a good idea, and the rest of the cult doesn't need to know that.
Yeah,
Maybe
absolutely.
it's a good idea that you leave one or two people that if disaster strikes, because you already have a somewhat curious feeling about this, yeah, then that would be probably a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're curious, just maybe just dip your toe in and have the rest of the foot out. But yeah, I think that's the best thing to do.
Yeah. But even there, I have watched a couple of documentaries about cults. And for instance, there was one journalist who went deliberately into a cult to investigate it. So he wanted to see how it is from the inside and then, write about it. And
Oh, I really want. I was just about to say, I want to infiltrate a cult, and I'd love to do something like that. The thing is with me, I just wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able to stop laughing. Like I would give the game away so quickly. Like they would just see right through me. They really would.
yeah.
But I would love to just spend a week or two at one of these, retreats or whatever they call it, and see see all the shenanigans that they get up to. And
Mm.
I mean, I think it would be really good from a work point of view for research, as you say. But I need to find the right one. Maybe someone can suggest the cult that I can that I can infiltrate. I probably wouldn't get in a lot of the new age cults because they know I'm out there exposing them. So I'd probably have to choose another cult. Maybe I'd join the guy in Australia that thinks he's Jesus. That would be a fun one to do.
Yeah. But what I was going to say, this journalist, yeah, he did that. And then he fell for the cult.
Oh right, wow, interesting.
So even that can happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it was not because he was a stupid man. Yeah,
But yeah, I do think a lot of it's desperation. Uh, I follow this YouTube channel where there's these all these people that do online I mean, it's not a cult, but it's you can see the desperation that I'm talking about. But it's all these people that get scammed online through these romance scams. And like some of them think actually believe that they're talking to like celebrities, and the celebrity, like there was one that thought that she was talking to Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp asked her for like, first of all, asked her for $500 because his bank card wasn't working, and like she was like giving him all this money, right? It's called catfish social, right? If you want to laugh, right? I mean, it's not really funny for the people, but some of it, it's like, oh my God, people are so desperate. And it, it's sad because a lot of people are really lonely, but for God's sake, I mean, and it's always the same story, the other person can never show themselves on camera because their phone's not working. And then, they got caught stuck on an oil rig, so they need money to get off the oil rig. And it's just the same old thing, but it just goes back to, people are really just desperate for something. And when you're in that kind of desperate, needy state, you've always got to, I think, you just check in with yourself and just check in that you're not doing things that might get you into more bother down the line. So yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? If you understand these concepts, it will also help you to stay away from narcissists. Because guess what? Cult leaders are malevolent narcissists.
Absolutely. I would actually say that they're possessed.
Mm,
A lot of them. I think they've got some kind of entity running the show for them. But yeah, I mean, it can be deemed as narcissism. However you want to cut it. Yeah, it's kind of one of the same.
yeah. And then you have the extreme cases like Jim Jones.
Oh God.
There is this one video, his last speech, where he hands out the Kool-Aid that everybody drank, and I cannot stomach to sit through that entire video, and you hear him speak, you hear infants crying, and then yeah, he is saying something like, "Mother, mother, mother, you know what you have to do," yeah, and he goes on, and
Mm. Yeah, it's really. And another thing to point out as well is that some of these cult leaders are very gifted and talented. They've either got a lot of charisma, or I mean, you look at someone like Trump, like he's going to be leading the next cult. There's a whole cult of people that are following Trump, right? But you look at someone like John of God, right? John of God was actually healing people from cancers and things like that. Turns out he's a child trafficker, right?
Mhm,
So, um, that's the other thing. Sometimes I believe that the entities that are working through these people give them special quote unquote powers, or allow them to tune into things that, uh, can on the surface be beneficial, but it's always what I call there's always a dump in the punch bowl. So there was all that stuff, but then he was a child trafficker, and that's the same with a lot of them. They'll, on the surface, appear gifted or talented, or they'll have something of real value, and then it gets, and then the dump in the punch bowl comes, and then all of a sudden you're in a cult, and you're trapped there, and yeah, so we've got to look out for that as well.
yeah, exactly. So, Tony, I thank you so much for coming.
You're
And
welcome.
yeah, guys, that was it. Night flight for today. And we see you all next.